On today's episode of America Unfiltered with James Pascalides, I'll cover topics like the leaked text messages within our government, Stephen A. Smith versus Ben Shapiro on Stephen A.'s podcast, Crockett calling the governor of Texas Hot Wheels, a law to eliminate all voter registration laws, Trump talking about tariffs, Florida returning federal funds, and over $3 trillion in investments in the United States. All that and much more coming up on today's episode of America Unfiltered with James Pascalides, starting now.
The moment is here. This is our moment.
America, we are back, baby. Welcome to another episode of America Unfiltered with James Pascalides. This is episode 36. I'm going to dive right into my topics today. First topic I want to talk about the leaks and the signal chat in our U.S. government. If you haven't heard about this, it's pretty surprising. It's one of the biggest news stories right now. The liberal media is blowing it out of proportion. I do have problems with it. I'm not going to say they're completely blowing it out of proportion. There definitely is some huge problems with it, but it's not as bad as they're trying to make it seem, which is another problem in itself. But recently, there was a significant security lapse. It occurred when U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth inadvertently included Jeffrey Goldberg. He's an editor in The Atlantic in a Signal group chat. If you don't know what Signal is, it comes pre-installed on government phones. It's a government-approved encrypted chat service, something along the lines of that. But basically, the chat named Houthi PC Small Group, it contained detailed discussions about planned military strikes against the Houthi militants in Yemen. There is speculation right now about the confidentiality of these texts. I personally do have a huge problem with this person just accidentally being included. If this was Joe Biden's presidency and cabinet members of Joe Biden accidentally included a reporter in text about a military strike that had not happened yet, I would definitely have huge problems with it. So I can't just sit here and act like there is nothing wrong with this, because there's definitely a huge lapse in judgment and a huge lapse in security when something like this happens. I have personally read the text messages, and I will include a link in the description as well to the full history of the text messages as well, so you guys can read them. But they talk about how, or the media is talking about how, we gave pretty much specific locations and things like that. It doesn't seem like that was the case, but it does seem like someone does need to be held accountable. I do think Security Advisor Mike Waltz should be the one to be held accountable. Dave Portnoy seems to agree as well. Dave Portnoy endorsed Donald Trump. He's the founder of Barstool Sports, an incredibly wealthy and smart individual in the United States who employs a lot of people. I want to show you guys a clip of him talking about it in a second. I'm not going to show you guys the full clip because it's about 7-8 minutes, but I'll show you guys just a brief portion of the clip where he talks about why he thinks Mike Waltz should be fired for this. But yeah, I do think that this is a huge problem, that there was this lapse in judgment. I'm glad that nothing bad came from it, but I do think that they need to hold people accountable. And I don't love the fact that Caroline Leavitt and the Trump administration currently are, I don't want to use the word gaslighting, but they are currently trying to tell us that there was no classified information or no sensitive material in the text. And they're not saying that it was okay that it was leaked to The Atlantic, but they are not really apologizing much for it either, which I don't love. I think it would be a lot easier for them to just get up to the mic and say, hey, we messed up. It's not going to happen again. It was a complete lapse in security and judgment. This person's fired and we're going to move on from here. I think that's the easiest way to go about it. I think the method they're going about right now of fighting against the press, saying that, no sensitive material was involved, no locations, names, targets, etc. was involved. I don't think that's the right move. Again, I think just moving past it with apologizing and taking responsibility is probably the correct way. But I'm going to go up here. I'm going to put up the little clip from the David Portnoy video. And like I said, the rest of it is on his X page. I think you guys should check it out. I think he puts up great videos when stuff like this happens.
Oh, the editor, Jeffrey Goldberg, comes out after. He's like, hey, morons, you guys included me on a Signal group chat with sensitive classified information discussing the Houthis attack before it happened. Pete Hegseth's immediate reaction is like, no, that never happened. We didn't leak any classified information. No classified information in there. And Jeffrey Goldberg released all the text in the Signal group chat. And guess what? It's super sensitive. It's super classified. It's surreal that these guys added Jeffrey Goldberg to this group chat. I mean, they were talking about the attack, leading up to the attack, all the way to a couple hours, when they're going to do it, the time, the weather, you name it. And if this information somehow got out to the Houthis, and I assume in situations like this, things move at the speed of light, lots of American soldiers could have died, lives in jeopardy. So to me, a major, major, major glitch in intelligence and just a huge mistake. It looked like Michael Waltz, the national security advisor to the president, added Jeffrey Goldberg to the group chat by accident, and J.D. Vance is in it. It looks like he added him by accident. And listen, we've all texted the wrong person. We've all emailed the wrong person. We've all had somebody who shouldn't be in a group chat in our lives. We are not the Secretary of Defense. We're not the National Security Advisor. We're not the Vice President of the United States. So, yeah, mistakes happen. This one can't. Here's my biggest issue with this. And this is in politics in general. The reaction of like Pete Hegseth and President Trump has been to kind of poo-poo it. Be like, there was no classified information in there. Trump's like, how did Jeffrey Goldberg get in there? Like, did he hack it? Did he get in there? He didn't stay very long. The Atlantic is a horrible organization and a terrible magazine, which they are, and I hate them. And by the way, if Jeffrey Goldberg, he didn't hack it, he got added, but if he did hack it, that's almost more dangerous than somebody like Jeffrey Goldberg. If he can hack the most sensitive group chats, what are our enemies doing?
That's just a brief little clip from David Portnoy, what he posted on his X account. Like I said, I'll put the link to it in the description of the video. But he talks about kind of the same thing like I was just saying, how he thinks it would be better if they just came out and apologized. I really think just taking responsibility moving forward is the best course of action. I think liberals fail at that, and conservatives are a lot better about it. But in this situation, it seems that we didn't do much better than Democrats usually do with things like this. Instead of apologizing moving forward, it seems like they just not lied to the American people, but are trying to just steer the ship slightly away from where the media is leading it and where the American people are trying to land. I really don't agree with this. It's one of my first big criticisms of the Trump administration. This doesn't really have too much to do with Donald Trump as much as it does have to do with Waltz and Peter Hegseth and things like that. But I really hope that over the time, the foreseeable future, that not only are they able to clear this up, but that nothing like this ever happens again. And I hope that someone does get fired for this, or at least held accountable in some way. I think that would be not only the responsible thing to do, but it would show Americans that they're very aligned. It would show us that they're aligned with the American people's values and not just trying to protect everyone within the government. I do want to go on to our next topic. This one's going to be a quick one, but I do want to just highlight that Stephen A. Smith and Ben Shapiro had a podcast together today. It was on Stephen A. Smith's podcast. So Stephen A. Smith tweeted something about Derek Chauvin and the George Floyd murder, and Ben Shapiro responded something to him about how he thinks that not only should Derek Chauvin be pardoned, but it wasn't a murder, that it was a death due to fentanyl. And then it didn't turn into a very heated debate, but it ended up with Ben Shapiro basically calling Stephen A. Smith a jackass on social media. Stephen A. Smith then followed that up by contacting Ben Shapiro immediately and asking him to come on his show. He said he was very surprised, actually, that there haven't been a lot of people who insult him who will then follow up and come right on their show and debate him about it. So Stephen A. Smith was impressed by that aspect of Ben Shapiro, that a lot of people who insult Stephen A. don't have the balls to come on his show and then talk to him face-to-face after. Ben Shapiro, no hesitation, said, yes, I will come on your show and debate you about anything. Because if you don't know much about Ben Shapiro, he's not really afraid of anybody when it comes to debates, especially about political topics. I think it's a very productive discussion. I think it's one where you can see they both learn some things, both get different perspectives, different racial perspective as well, and just different perspectives on the case. I do side more with Ben Shapiro than I do with Stephen A. when it comes to the facts of the case. I think Ben Shapiro is a lot more facts-oriented, while Stephen A. is slightly more emotions-oriented. They both are facts-oriented, but I do think Ben Shapiro is a lot more facts-oriented. That's kind of his whole style. I do urge you guys all to watch the video. I think it's a great podcast, a great little clip where they talk, like I said, about the George Floyd controversy. And I do think that there is a lot of information that the majority of American people do not know. They went off what they heard in the media, just in the time being that the case was happening, and they didn't do much research beyond that. So I urge everyone to watch that and maybe do some of your own research as well if you don't feel like you're fully educated on the subject. So I do want to go on to our next topic. I want to show you guys a video as well. This one's disappointing, but a U.S. Representative, Jasmine Crockett, she's currently facing backlash right now after referring to the Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who's a great man. He's been paralyzed since 1984. He used a wheelchair, but she referred to him as Hot Wheels during a human rights campaign event. She said that her criticisms were aimed at his policies regarding migrant transfers, but, I mean, we can all just put the stupid aside for a second and realize that she's talking about a man in a wheelchair and just calling him Hot Wheels because of that. I don't think it's okay to make fun of people with disabilities for social and political gain. I think not only should it bring her further from her goal of getting elected in any future elections towards anything, but I think all of her constituents should do what they can to get her out as fast as possible. I'm going to pop the video up for you guys just so you can see what kind of disgusting things this woman said.
Because we in these hot-ass Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot-ass mess, honey. So yes.
I think it's slightly weird to, not that she's being too serious or anything, but if a male politician said the only thing hot about Kamala Harris is that she's a hot-ass mess, I'm sure liberals would have a huge problem with anyone just calling her ugly in that sense. Again, I'm sure Greg Abbott doesn't care, as the majority of Americans don't, but it's just that double standard that liberals love to hang over everybody. But beyond that, I think it's disgusting, the word she used. I think it's disgusting she chooses to insult Greg Abbott, calling him Hot Wheels. Insulting someone for being paralyzed is a very weird insult, it's not funny in a political setting. I think there's stand-up settings where you can make fun of almost anything, but I think in political settings, pick a lot smarter and wiser with your jokes and choices. I don't think that was a smart one, Jasmine Crockett. I do want to go on to our next topic. This one is another pretty insane one. I'm going to show you guys another video, but there's a video right here where a guy who looks like Professor Nutty is basically telling us how we should eliminate all voter registration laws, how voter registration laws are what are holding Democrats back. So I'm going to play this video for you guys, and you guys can see just how ridiculous this really is.
Okay, so like what?
Well, we could eliminate all voter registration laws. See, when Democrats get in charge, we try to protect voting rights. We don't make voting easier. Now, I'm all for voter eligibility requirements. We might disagree about what those requirements should be, but I'm going to say that there should be an age limit to vote. I might say 16, you might say 18, but I'm not going to say 8. Right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to agree that there should be voter eligibility requirements. But once you're eligible, why do you have to pre-register? Why is that even a thing? It wasn't a thing in this country at the founding. We didn't have voter pre-registration in 1787. We didn't have voter pre-registration in 1821. We only started having voter registration, generally speaking, after the Civil War. Why do you think that is? It's because a bunch of freed African slaves were migrating up north, and all of a sudden New York was like, we need some registration up in here, right? A bunch of immigrants from Europe, mainly Ireland and Italy, were coming to New York. People were like, oh, we need some registration in here. If you're eligible to vote, you should be automatically registered to vote, and that is how they do it Everywhere else but us. Everywhere else but us either has automatic registration or some other form of forced registration for everybody so that you don't have this disconnect between eligible voters and registered voters. That's the first law in the book that we could change. And it's to see how that's different than just saying we have to protect voting rights. No. We don't have to protect voting rights. We have to expand voting rights so that the 90 million people that sat on the couch and sat out this last election between democracy and fascism, so that maybe they had a little bit of an easier time to get up off the couch and come participate in the democracy.
They don't want to protect voter rights at all. If they wanted to protect voter rights, they would make it so only American citizens could vote in American elections. They wouldn't. So not only do they want to get rid of voter registration laws, Democrats have been pushing to get rid of any voter ID laws at all. They think it's racist to have to show ID at voting tables and voting booths because they say it's harder for minorities to be able to obtain IDs, that they're not in locations where it makes it accessible for them to obtain IDs. I personally went to a college that was about like 90% black my first semester or my first year of college. Not one person there didn't have an ID. I have met thousands and thousands of black people just in my life. Not one of them has just not had an ID because they didn't know how to get it or didn't have access to it. Continuously trying to tear down voter registration and voter ID laws because you're saying they're racist is racist in itself. You saying that black people, brown people, and other races are incapable of being able to go out and get an ID is racist. You're just basically saying they're too stupid to be able to do it themselves. I don't think they are. I think every black person in America is smart enough to find their way to a DMV and get a license. And if they're not, they probably shouldn't be able to vote. No offense. But I think every single person in America is smart enough to be able to find their way to a DMV and find a license. So for them to say that black and brown people, it discriminates against them when you have these voter ID laws is racist in itself. And for them to say that we need to take away voter registration laws is just their start to try and swing every swing state into a democratic state through illegal immigration. They poured in hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants into swing states, into sanctuary cities, as they like to call them, ruining these cities, ruining taxpayer dollars. And they want these people to be able to vote in their elections like New York allows. If you allow migrants to vote in elections and you continuously tell the migrants if they vote Democrat, they will receive free things like free healthcare, free food, free 5-star hotels at the expense of the American taxpayer, they will continue to do it. It will be the end of fair elections in America. I think Professor Nutty here, I think the whole panel at MSNBC needs to take a hike. Rachel Maddow especially, one of the worst over there. But if you as a sane American can't see how ridiculous this is, that's crazy. I think the vast majority of Americans watch something like this and they're like, what the hell is this idiot talking about? But if you don't see that, please write a message in my comments, send me a message personally. I would love to debate you on that. I would love to debate anybody in the world right now on voter ID and voter registration laws, that we should have them in this country. And anyone who thinks we don't, like I said, please feel free to send me a message. I would love to publicly debate you on the subject because I know you would get destroyed. For our next topic, I do want to show something very positive for America. Since President Donald Trump has assumed office in the United States, we have seen nearly $3 trillion in announced investments in the United States. These come from different various sectors like energy, car, technology, AI, but it's giving a huge significant boost to the economic confidence of the United States, the American taxpayer. And all the major tech companies as well are pledging substantial investments into the United States. This will lead to huge job creation, economic growth in the United States. It's going to bring back manufacturing to the United States like Donald Trump wanted to do. He talked a lot about over the campaign trail how America used to be one of the leaders in manufacturing and how over time that stopped, how manufacturing is shipped overseas and the product selling has been in the United States. We need to flip that because not only were we getting unfairly screwed on tariffs and things like that, and trade, but it will grow the American economy, grow American jobs, and it will make the American dollar worth a lot more if we can make our goods in America, sell them in America as well. So hats off to Donald Trump for securing over $3 trillion in investments in the United States since he took office. No other recent president has been able to do anything like this, and Donald Trump is doing this through his use of tariffs. Tariffs will make this country rich. I love tariffs, and you should too. I do want to go on to one of our last topics here. I want to talk about Florida, how they're returning over $900 million in unused federal funds back to the government. So Ron DeSantis announced that Florida will be returning $900 million in unused federal funds to the federal government. He said that he has reached out previously under the Biden administration to try and return federal funds that were unused, and we were not able to. He said the Biden administration said they did not have a system set up to be able to get funds back from states when states didn't use all the funding. So they were not able to give the money back to the government, which is a completely ridiculous thing. With one quick phone call from DeSantis to Elon Musk, they were able to come up with the system, get it figured out, and DeSantis was able to get the funds back to the federal government. Few things this does is it instills trust with the American people that our politicians are not overspending our tax dollars. When DeSantis saw that there was $900 million in unused funds, a lot of corrupt politicians would either use that on themselves, use that on just wasteful spending. But what DeSantis did is he said, we're going to return this to the federal government. We're going to return this to the Treasury and the American people where it deserves to be. I really think this is a smart move. I think DeSantis is one of the best governors in the country, in the United States. I think a lot of Americans agree on that as well. It's one of the reasons that Florida has been such a popular state. So many people are moving to Florida a day. At the height of COVID, it was about 2,000 people a day were moving from New York City to Florida alone, and that's just from New York. So there's a lot of people moving to Florida. It's one of the most popular states in the United States, and that's because it's one of the last free states. It's completely free. Like I said, there are very few laws that are limiting your rights as an American compared to other states in this country. Florida definitely loves to give the rights to the people in this state. I do want to go to our last topic today before we sign off, but I want to talk about how Donald Trump signed an executive order. It's titled Preserving and Protecting the Integrity of American Elections. I think just by the name of it, we all know we're going to love this bill. This is something that we need in this country. I was talking about earlier how our elections were, there's just potential. There's a lot of fraud that could happen with our elections, with the system, with illegal immigration, and the way Democrats were trying to set things up. But this order mandates that voters provide documentary proof of citizenship when registering for federal elections and require all mail-in ballots to be received by Election Day. The order also directs federal agencies to assist states in identifying non-citizens on voter rolls and ties federal grants to states' compliance with these directives. So basically, if states are allowing non-citizens to vote in their elections, then they will lose federal grants. So that's a very big deal. That will push a lot of states like California, New York, Minnesota, and states going against Donald Trump's orders directly to comply. I think it's very important that states comply with the president's directions. Supporters argue that these measures are essential to prevent voter fraud and ensure election integrity. Liberals are contending that they may disenfranchise eligible voters and face legal consequences. This is, again, just liberal nonsense, the same way when liberals say that black people can't get IDs. Again, find me one black person who can't get an ID, and again, if he's too stupid to get an ID, he's probably too stupid to vote. Same thing with any other race in this country. I don't think there's any race you can look at and be like, oh, this race entirely, they're just too dumb to go get IDs. That's racist to say. And the fact that Democrats continuously push that agenda, that there are complete races of people who are too stupid to find their way to a DMV and get a license or get any sort of proof that they're an American citizen to be able to vote, is racist in itself. I think conservatives are the least racist people in this country because not only conservatives look at merit. Conservatives don't look at, we're a company that's been primarily white and you're black, so we're just going to hire you. That's not what conservatives do. Conservatives say, okay, you excel at this, and this. We need that, so we're going to hire you. Conservatives say that it doesn't matter what your skin color is. You're a good person, so I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to help you. You're a bad person, so I'm not going to do this for you. I'm not going to help you. While liberals continuously will look at your race and base their decisions off of that. Oh, you're a black person? I'm just going to help you. I'm going to assume that you are struggling and I'm going to help you. You're a white person? Doesn't matter. You don't need any help at all. You have white privilege. I think this is the mess that liberals have created that conservatives are now cleaning up, and I'm very glad we have someone like Donald Trump to do this. I think that the staff we have in the White House is one of the best ones we've ever had in history, and I couldn't be prouder to be an American than I am today. I'm James Pascalides. This has been episode 36 of America Unfiltered. I'm signing off today, and I hope you all have a blessed day. Thank you.